Morning, Raptor Freak Alexios here. Monday mornings. That means it's time for a Raptor Freak Monday memory. And today's Monday memory is from the first month of the season, this past season. It's October 29th, 2021. The Raptors were playing the Orlando Magic here in Toronto. It was a very close game that was won by just 1 point. And there were a lot of factors that went into the victory that game could have been very easily lost. The Raptors did not score in the last 2 minutes of the game. Fred VanVleet hit a three-pointer and put them at 110 with 2 minutes to go, and they were up by 12. Orlando was at 98 at that point. They were trying their damnedest to come back on us, and we could not score in the last 2 minutes of this game. But the 12-point cushion with 2 minutes to go was enough for the Raptors to make sure that they won. Of course, this game, the marquee matchup was Jalen Suggs and Scottie Barnes. That there's so much hype over the summer about us supposed to be taking Jalen Suggs with the fourth pick in the draft. And we're like, nah, fuck that bullshit. We're going to get number 4 at number 4, and that's Big Roy Scottie Barnes. And by the end of the game, because of the way that they played, Jalen Suggs played great. He got 21 points in the game himself, but Scottie had 20 himself. So at the end of the game, near the end, the Toronto fans started chanting, Scottie's better, Scottie's better. It was just a really cool game. And there's different reasons why this game was so cool. Because in some ways, this game was won by our bench. In some ways, this was won by guys like Scottie Barnes and Delano Banton. This is the thing. This may have been one of Delano Banton's best games in his first rookie year. That there was at this time in the season, the Raptors were using the 3 Canadian B guys off the bench altogether. It was the 3-headed Canadian monster, I was calling it. Delano Banton, Kem Birch, and Chris Boucher. And these were the 3 highest plus minuses in this game against Orlando. It's like they came in off the bench in the first quarter and they were a wrecking crew. They came right in and they got us way ahead and gave us a lead. They were a big energy boost. And this was kind of the debut of the 3-headed monster, the Canadian monster off the bench, Boucher, Banton, and Birch. And they were so effective. Like they came in and did that the first half. Well, in the third quarter, in the second half, they did the same thing. They came in and they had such a good plus minus. The team was scoring so efficiently. The team wasn't allowing Orlando to score. And looking at it, the big difference in this game was those 3 Bs off the bench. Canadian Bs. Banton, Birch, and Boucher at that time was fantastic. Pascal wasn't back yet. OG had a good game. Fred was pretty good. He was kind of controlling the tempo and being a good leader. Scottie said after the game that he felt like Fred directed the offense extremely well, that it was a very interesting, fun game to play against Jalen Suggs. Now, I personally went to this game because at the last minute that day, my friend who has season tickets said, hey, I have my tickets and I'm not going to use them. I haven't been able to sell them. Do you want to go for free? Well, I ended up giving him some money for the tickets anyway, but I did go to the game at the last minute. Part of the problem was I didn't realize the game was starting at 7 o'clock. The game I thought was starting at 7:30, so I didn't time it right. And I got in there too late to watch the first quarter. And I remember rushing up to my seat and trying to sit down and get settled down. And I was by myself. Normally I go to a game with somebody else, but I just went by myself that night. And it was fine and everything like that. But the thing that I really loved about being at that game, not only was it the Jalen Suggs versus Scottie Barnes #1 of their careers, but also that there was this sensational dunk in that game by the end of the game where Scottie picked up his dribble in the other end of the court and dribbled like 3 or 4 dribbles across the court and then just a full court jam. Like he ran right to the basket and jammed it. And it looked like that old Dr. J flowing afro dunk where he flew through the air and just threw it in. Such a badass dunk. In fact, to me personally, that was my favorite dunk of the last season. Now, Paul B, regular viewer, Raptor Freak, Paul B has sent me an amazing clip yesterday. It's on YouTube. I'm going to post the clip in the comments of this stream after I'm done, that he collected all the best dunks of the Raptors the past year. And I want you guys to see his work. Great job, Paul B, as archivist of this channel. You did a fantastic job with that clip, Paul. I'm really proud of you. Really awesome to see. So, all right, what else did I want to talk about today? Well, this game was like a really good setup because they started the season really bad without Pascal. We were losing more games than we were winning. We were losing a lot of games at home, and we needed to win this one at home against the Magic. And it wasn't totally in hand. Like I said, they could not score in the last 2 minutes. They were up by 12, and it took a really crazy defensive play by Gary Trent Jr. right at the last second of the game on Cole Anthony, who was trying to heave a half court shot to win the game that he missed. And thank goodness, because they were coming back. They had scored like they got to 11 points, and they lost by one, just 1 point short. The Raptors held them off and won that game. So to me, it was a great game from this past season, a great moment for the Raptors this past season, great moment for Scottie, a great moment for Delano. That was one of his best games as a rookie this past year, and just a fun game in general. It was good to see the balance between the Canadian B guys off the bench playing really well, and then people like OG, Gary, and Fred, and Precious being real solid in the starting lineup also. All right, just a little bit more house cleaning, general stuff. I'm not going to be on for too long today. Yesterday, a couple of game sevens in the NBA. The Boston Celtics put out the Milwaukee Bucks. Very, very much a disappointment for Milwaukee Nation. They've had a bad weekend. Between the shootings that happened on Friday night, and I have heard that 3 people did die in the shootings in Milwaukee, actually, eventually, which is really awful and sad in itself. But between that and then them losing game 7 to Boston like that, that's awful. And a lot of people are saying today, like, these 2 teams that lost their game 7 yesterday, the Raptors fan nations are calling out, Giannis, come to Toronto, come to Toronto. Well, that's not realistic, Raptor fans. But, he may be reconsidering his decision to sign the Supermax with Milwaukee like he did, because he could have came here and it could have been a whole kind of different story for him all of a sudden here in Toronto. But I feel bad for Milwaukee Nation, and I hate that Boston put them out. I was not rooting for this to happen. I hate the Celtics, and I hate that they're touting this whole thing about how they have beaten the NBA champion and put them out in a 7-game series twice now in the last couple of years, because they did it to us in the bubble after our championship year in 2019. Now they've done it to Milwaukee in 7 games. And they talk like this is some sort of accomplishment. Well, maybe it is, but maybe it's also the NBA rigging things to help you guys beat teams like us in Milwaukee. So also the other thing is that the NBA doesn't want a small market like Milwaukee to come up and get it. They want to ensure things like Boston wins. And that I really do believe in that there is ref manipulation that causes Boston to get propped up. And the stat shows in some ways, like, listen to this stat. This made me pissed off too. But also this is skewed because of the history of the NBA. And when there were only 10 teams back in the day, Boston was the team they've now been in 37 of Eastern Conference Finals out of the 75 years. So they've been half of the Eastern Conference Finals in the history of the NBA. Now, a lot of that is heavily weighted towards like Bill Russell years, 1960s, and earlier than that, like even before, when the league didn't have very many teams. So that is part of the reason why that stat is so, inflated. In some ways, it's like they shouldn't really brag that stat, because half of those years are mostly in the very beginning of the first half of the history of the NBA. And the last half of the NBA, it's quite barren for Boston Celtics Nation as far as making these braggings and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm not happy with the 4 teams that are the last 4 teams standing in the NBA right now. I'm not happy with any of them. I wanted Phoenix to beat Dallas. I'm really disappointed in seeing how badly Phoenix did last night, that they let them beat them that bad on their home court after being the #1 seed, the #1 team in the NBA, bragging. We had Phoenix fan coming into the stream and getting in my face, bragging about the Suns. The Suns this, Suns that, Suns this. I'm like, dude, why are you talking to us? We have nothing to do with you. Well, now Suns fans like, what the fuck happened after last night? because this should not have happened to them. I'm going to tell you right now, this should not have happened to the Suns. It's amazing how they went out like this. And all the stuff that people are saying about Chris Paul today is warranted to a degree. And it's too bad because he is a good pro. He's a great player, but he may end up being like Charles Barkley, like Karl Malone, just this guy who just does not get a ring, does not get a championship, because this year was his best chance. And there was a lot of talk about whether he was going to retire after the game last night because of the failure of it all. And for a moment he said, but then he has retracted it, and he is saying he is going to be back next season. Now, another very interesting development from that Suns game last night was the benching of DeAndre Ayton. Now, apparently something was said to Monty Williams in the first half about one of the other guys on the team. I think it was Chris Paul, that he said something to Monty, and Monty had to discipline him. And that meant not playing Ayton in the second half. Now, I don't know Monty Williams. That may be kind of a stupid move in some ways, because now you've got the center that's like pissed off at you guys. And he may not want to play for Phoenix after this. And this may be a way that the door opens up for him to leave and possibly end up on a team like the Toronto Raptors. If Ayton came to Toronto, I'd be all about that. Now, Gobert's different, but Ayton, yes, because Ayton's contract isn't as crazy bad as Gobert's is at this point. And that if he ended up in a Raptors jersey in the near future because of divisions and things that are happening with their team right now, hell yeah, I'll be all about that. DeAndre Ayton in a red and black jersey for the Toronto Raptors. Hell yeah, I'll be all about that. So this is something we need to monitor, is the situation with DeAndre Ayton in the Suns, and whether he's unhappy there or whether they want to continue to work all together or not, because there was definitely something that blew up in the last game of the series last night against the Dallas Mavericks. Now, Luka Doncic, man, that dude is good. And this is really impressive that Dallas has made it this far. Honestly, I did not think they would. Even with that trade with Kristaps earlier this season and getting Spencer Dinwiddie and Bertans from them, I was like, man, this team isn't that much better or any better, or they seem like maybe they're worse. But actually, no, it's Luka Doncic like star power. And maybe it's a little bit of golden boy treatment, but this guy, wow. And listen, them against Golden State, first of all, I'm not happy that Golden State's there either, because I was rooting for Memphis. I was rooting for Phoenix. I was rooting for Milwaukee. And to be honest, in some ways, I was rooting for the Sixers against Miami. So I'm not totally happy with any of the four teams that are left. If I had to choose one of them to win at this point, I kind of want Dallas to win, just because they've only won one championship in their entire history. And Luka Doncic is a badass in some ways. I do not want Boston to win, obviously. And I really don't want the Warriors to win another championship either, because their dynasty's too long. So if I could have either one of these teams, I would say Dallas or Miami, hopefully one of those two win, because Kyle will become a champion again if Miami wins. And Dallas, they only got one championship. So fuck the Celtics and fuck the Warriors. I do not want to see either one of them end up with the Larry O'Brien by the end of this. But wow, if these were the four teams that you thought would be in the top four at the end of the year, that's pretty good. Because, listen, there's a lot of people saying Nets. A lot of people were saying Lakers at the beginning of the season. A lot of people were saying Phoenix Suns as the season went on. And now we get who we got. And it's very interesting. The Raptors lost both games against the Mavericks this season. The Mavericks have been strong all year, so don't count them out against Golden State. That is going to be a very good series. And I really, really, really hope that Miami can take care of Boston and just put them the fuck out. Because if there's one thing that I really do want to happen by the end of this playoffs, is to see the Celtics lose. That is definitely on the list of mandatory to see. All right, I don't know how much more I'm going to talk about today. I just wanted to stop in for a Monday memory and reminisce about a great game on October 29th, 2021. The Raptors beating the Orlando Magic by 1 point here in Toronto at the Scotiabank Arena. Scottie Barnes proven that he was the better rookie over Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner in that game, and just having a great win with the Raptors team concept and them playing good together. Because in some ways, if you look at the stats from that game, the Raptors didn't play that well, and it was very, very close. And it was one of these games early in our season that proved that the Raptors may have the right mix of youth and inexperience with actual veteran experience also. That they were able to close the game out and make sure that they won in the last 2 minutes, even though they couldn't score. They did it with defense and just smart, very smart play in the way they did it and stuff like that. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching me. I'll be back tomorrow for trivia, y'all. So there's another week of trivia tomorrow. So come in 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time sharp. I'll have my trivia questions ready for y'all. And you can play to win the JYD practice jersey that's autographed by Jerome Williams. All right, y'all. Have a great Monday, and let's go Raptors.